Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to take a look at Claude. Claude is an AI service that's very similar to ChatGPT. You load it up, start a conversation and ask for what you want from the AI in a conversational manner. But it's not being built by OpenAI. It's not built on top of GPT-3 or 4 like all of the other AI systems out there today. It is completely new. It's been built by a company called Anthropic. Anthropic said that they are all about building a safe and responsible AI. They were founded by people who used to work for OpenAI, so they know what they're doing when it comes to building an AI system from the ground up. They've also received a massive amount of funding from Google. So they're right in the middle of the ongoing AI war between Microsoft and Google. So we're going to take a look at it today. We're going to see how it works. We're going to compare it to the other systems out there, Bard and also ChatGPT. Before we do that, I'm going to need to ask you to subscribe to this channel. If you like AI, if you want to know how to use AI and make it work for you, then this channel is for you. It's all about new AI news and also how you get the most out of it. I teach you prompt engineering and also different ways that you can use AI to get the best for your business and your life. If this video helps you today, please like it. It helps with the algorithm, and share it with somebody else who you think might like what I talk about. And finally, if you want to talk about it yourself, drop a comment down below. I'll be more than happy to read it and see what you think about Claude or answer any questions that you might have. So let's take a look at Claude. So as it says here, meet Claude, our helpful, honest, and harmless AI assistant. So again, it's all about responsible AI, but honesty, I don't know how honest it is. All AIs are capable of hallucinations. We've seen that with ChatGPT, GPT4, and all the other ones out there. So I don't see Claude being exempt from that, but that is clearly what the aim is when it comes to using Claude. It wants to be helpful and honest. So if we look on here, it's very similar to ChatGPT. I can write a message out below, or if I click new chat, they have curated some examples. So what I found quite interesting there is you've got analyzing documents, so you can put a document in there. Claude does allow you to have up to 9,000 tokens, which is higher than the current GPT-4 model, but not as high as the one that's going to be available soon. It gives you the option of writing conversations, so the things that most people have used AI for, and then learning, which is something that people have been a bit reluctant to do with AI because, being honest, if it's going to possibly hallucinate, it's hard to use it to learn because it might teach you something that's completely wrong. But on the bottom, we've got code there as well. So Bard currently won't allow you to code. It will just refuse to do it. ChatGPT is really good at it at the moment. GPT-4 is very good at coding. We're going to start here by looking at Teach Me About GANs. So GAN's a generative adversarial network. So Style GAN is one of the most popular ones out there. There's a lot of music generation GANs. Basically, what they do is they have a generator and they have a discriminator. The discriminator will sort of look at things and say, is it real or is it fake? And the generator will try and trick that discriminator. And when it gets to a point where the generator can very regularly trick the discriminator into thinking that it's the fake things are real, then it's ready to be able to be used. So let's see what Claude tells us. So as it says there straight away, two neural networks generate a discriminator. They are trained simultaneously, and then what they do, they generate new data until it gets to the point that it is able to trick the discriminator. So that's a very good answer to that question. And one thing that Claude says in its documentation is don't do what we currently do on ChatGPT, where we'll often say, I want you to act as a blog writer, I want you to act as a trainer, as I say in my earlier video about getting a maths tutor. This is meant to be how you talk to Claude, because if you start to say, I want you to act as this, that's not how you talk to a real person, so it will possibly make Claude do something weird. So OpenAI never said to talk to it in that way, but we learned it's a way to trick it. And I'm going to test on here with Claude whether it still does work or whether it actually doesn't work. So let's take a look at another one. So if we go onto the new chat and we'll go for flash fiction. So let's say this is completely different to the other one, which was all about having something factual. This is complete fiction. It's completely separate. And I would say the style it writes with is really good. The quality of the writing is definitely up there with GPT-4 or ChatGPT. I don't know quite how good it will be when it goes away from having a pre-written prompt by people from Anthropic that know how to prompt the system. That I would say is going to be the test of how good it really is. But if you take a look on there, a bit autobiographical there, isn't it? You've got Anthropic, so it seems to be talking about itself. Maybe it thinks it could pass the Turing test. I think it possibly could. But if you go down there, I think that's a really good piece of fiction. And we click on the edit chat. So edit chat is similar to the playground. This tells you how the chat works on the back end of it. What I think is interesting is the big thing that Sam Altman said made the difference between GPT 3.5 and ChatGPT and GPT4 was adding a system prompt. And I think that's something that's really important when you are putting a system out to other people who maybe don't know how to prompt it in the right way and talk to the AI. So on GPT-4, for example, if I was to create an AI system on top of it, I could have a system prompt and I could have that tell the AI exactly how I want it to write. So no matter what you put in to ask it, I want it to write in this way. And GPT-4 will take that as being extremely important, more important than anything that you put in afterwards in terms of the style, in terms of what we wanted to do and what we wanted not to do. This isn't on this one here, which possibly when it goes on to putting in a description that maybe from someone who maybe doesn't know how to guide the AI in the right way, I think it might mean it lacks a little bit. I don't know. We'll see in a second. But if we take a look on here, just like you can do on the playground, I can delete all of that out and I can have it do it again. And once again, it starts writing a story, definitely autobiographical, an android named Claude, and its creators are Anthropic. No doubt this must be what the AI thinks is going to happen to it if it gets too powerful. I don't know. But if we take a look at it, it's definitely a good piece of fiction. So I think if we take a look on there, oh, that bit's leaves a little cliffhanger at the end there as well. I only hope to demonstrate enough usefulness to avoid being retired. Very similar to maybe Blade Runner there. It's possibly what it's been influenced by. So if we take a look at another one. So let's get a blog post. So a blog post, again, this here is all about the style. So once again, it says it's going to write a blog post. It definitely knows what maybe, I don't know if it's maybe hallucinating that, but it seems to know in terms of numbers. It knows that you asked for 400 word blog post, it's wrote as a 404 word blog post about snowboarding. And once again, if you take a look on there, that is certainly a style that I would look at for a blog post, and it's quite a personal style rather than being too professional, talking to I and me. It's hallucinating those things there. So if you talk about honest, there's no doubt that the AI has never snowboarded before. So, well, or surfed before. So this, I was a long time snowboarder. I was fascinated by surfing. These are hallucinated. So if we talk about honest, I don't know if that's so honest, but the style is definitely a good style. And one more of the examples here before we ask it ourselves. Let's take a look at a piece of command line help. So a bash one-liner, there we go. There's some code in there and an explanation as to how the code works. So certainly in terms of comparing it to ChatGPT on here, the examples are certainly up there with it. Let's try something completely new now. So we start a new chat, and on here we're going to ask it to write the first chapter of a book about a footballer who is about to make his debut as a professional. Now we see how it's going to work on something that's not curated. So after our first chapter, again, I would say in some ways from that prompt, and we're going to compare it in a second to ChatGPT, but from that prompt, I think that the style is certainly up there with some of the ones that I've received from ChatGPT. So we'll load up ChatGPT now, and we'll use the same prompt on ChatGPT and see how the comparison is between the two models. So we're on the default ChatGPT 3.5 model here. So we'll drop in the same prompt that we used on Claude, and it started off with a chapter. And once again, I would say the quality of both is kind of neck and neck there. So maybe GPT-4 might be a bit of a step above. I don't know. But the one thing I found with ChatGPT is it wants to run away with the story. It's meant to be the first chapter of it, and it's already got to the end of the first game in about 600, 700 words, which really isn't enough to, to build up attention and get to a high point, which I think Claude is a bit better. It takes its time. It's shorter, but it takes its time to get to that part of the story. but quality of the writing, I would say neck and neck, very, very similar there. So let's try GPT-4 and see if GPT-4 is better and see how it does. So again, I would say that, okay, that start there is really, really good. The problem I've got with GPT-4 is just how slow it is. It has, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's extremely slow. Probably that depends on how busy it is. It's definitely got faster from the first day. When I look on here, that story, I would say, I think that's far better than either Claude or GPT-3. I think that is far better in terms of the way that the story starts, how it's taken a bit more time than it did on the GPT 3.5 one. And again, I think it goes a very similar way there, where it's got a message there from the coach, which it's been trained on similar things, I would probably say. Again, it just goes a bit too fast, but that is just AI. It's just running along. It's just guessing what the next word is. So it's moving along with the story very, very quickly, which I think is a problem with GPT 3.5, and possibly it had Claude wrote more, might have done the same thing. But again, I would say the quality of that one is far, far, far better than the other one. Again, this is a very basic prompt. This is nowhere near as detailed as any prompt should be. If you do want to learn more about prompting for fiction, drop a message down below in the comments, and if it's of interest, then I'd be more than happy to show how I would write fiction with AI, because I definitely wouldn't do it with just a one-line prompt. So again, that I say is by far the best. So let's maybe check out Bard and see how it does with fiction, and then we'll come back, we'll try something totally different before rounding it up at the end. So here we are on Bard. It's very, again, exact same as the other two. We're going to copy it into there, and I really think they missed a trick here. I think having it type it out is always better than having it just do it in the background and then give you the output. Looking on here, in terms of the story, it's a good story, I'd say, in terms of what it does. It builds it up well, but there's no description there at all, and that's what makes GPT-4 so much better. Is if you read any fiction at all, the best part about fiction is the descriptions of it build that picture in your mind, while here, if you look at it, it just tells you what's going on. There's no dialogue, there's no descriptions as to, you know, the emotions, the feelings there. It's just very, very basic, but it's the weakest of them, but it's not a bad output. Let's have a look at the other drafts. So the other drafts, oh, that's an interesting one. I would say that one's probably better than the original one, but again, it just moves incredibly fast, doesn't it? So again, that's a very basic prompt. We'll probably get a better output. The prompt you put in is going to give you a better output if you put more detail in yourself. If you have an interest in fiction, in writing with AI, drop a comment down below. If enough of you are interested in it, I'm more than happy to do a video on writing fiction with Bard, GPT-4, and Claude. So let's do the main thing that most of us use AI for, which is writing blog posts. So what I'm going to do here is I've placed a prompt into Claude. I'm going to copy the same prompt over into GPT-4 and Bard as well, and we're going to see how well they do at writing this blog post. The prompt says, act as a football blog writer. I know that Anthropic say not to use that because that's not how we talk to people. However, OpenAI never said to use that originally either. So let's just see how it works if it can write a good blog post using that same prompt. I've asked it to write a blog post in a friendly, entertaining, and conversational style, because that's how football blog writers usually write, about Middlesbrough's top 10 players in the 1990s. Now, Claude and GPT-4 were trained up until 2021, so they definitely should have enough information to write a factual post about footballers in the 1990s, and Bard is connected to the internet, so that definitely should be factual. But I want to see what the style of the post is like, whether it gets the style right, whether it gets the facts right, and which one does the best job. So let's set Claude off. Let's also set GPT-4 off, and let's set Bard off as well. So we're going to see how it does. I personally think that GPT-4 is going to be the best of the three. GPT-4, in my opinion, is by far ahead of Bard, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's also massively ahead of Claude as well. So firstly, there's one issue there. I've asked the top 10 players, but it's gone to 14. that seems to have made a bit of a mistake there. It seems to have meant to go from 10 down to 1, but it has gone from 10 up to 20. And it's also stopped part way through. What I find quite good about Claude, so if we take a look at the players, it's chosen Stuart Ripley. That's a surprising choice, but a really good one. He was a great player at Middlesbrough, but he went on to have his best years at Blackburn, where he won the Premier League, and was certainly a massive part of that team's success. Mikkel Beck, yep, good player. Paul Merson, yep. Colin Cooper, he had a few years at the end of the 90s, but I don't think he was there in 1997. Fabrizio Ravanelli, absolutely. Then we'll go to the top 5 players. I like that it's told me why it's chose a certain style, why it's chose to write in a certain way. I do like that because that really is interesting to know. You don't get that from GPT-4. You don't know why it's done what it's done. It just kind of does it. What's good though as well is that it does say if it wants you to modify and expand, that's good. So what I'm thinking with Claude is that it's probably told that if it's not going to get to the end of the post, that it should tell you what it's done and prompt you to ask for more if you want it. I quite like that. So we'll ask it to continue with the rest of the post. Let's see what it does. So Janino, 100%. Tony Mowbray, I'm not sure if he played for the club in the 90s. I think he might have left at the end of the 80s. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think many people would choose Robbie Mustoe as the best ever player for Middlesbrough. He was a brilliant player, probably deserves to be in the top 10. He was definitely underappreciated, but I don't know if even he would put himself above the likes of Janino and players like that. But he was definitely Francesco Ravielli. I think that's a mistake there. I don't even know if that's a real player. Maybe I'm proved wrong, but I don't recognise that name. He definitely wasn't playing for the club in 94, 95. I'm wondering who that is meant to be. That's just a complete hallucination. So if we're looking at Claude there, the style of that I think is brilliant, but the accuracy, it says about being an honest assistant. It's not being honest in that post. It has hallucinated, which is just to be expected. That's not a knock, but I would say that that does show that we're massively miles away from being completely accurate. So that's a good post with some errors. Let's take a look at the one from GPT-4. So it hasn't finished it. But in terms of the style, I really don't like the post to start "Hey Borough fans." That it seems to do that for quite a lot of things. Let's see if Claude did the same thing. No, Claude's opening I think is perfect, but "Hey Borough fans," I really don't like that. It does it for almost everything that I ask it to write in a friendly and conversational style. It seems to start with that, which just isn't the way that blog posts ever start. But if we take a look here, otherwise a good start. Juninho, yeah, great player. Paul Gascoigne, I don't think he had one great season in the first season of the Premier League, but he still was far from his best when he played for Middlesbrough, and I don't think anyone would put him in the top 10 players of the 1990s. Nigel Pearson definitely deserves to be there. Robbie Mustoe, Emerson, Gary Pallister, Fabrizio Ravanelli, Craig Hignett, Mikkel Beck. That one's accurate, completely accurate in terms of the players. They all played for Middlesbrough, and they all played for Middlesbrough in the 1990s. In terms of the accuracy of what it says, looking at it, I think that it is pretty much accurate in what it says. Gaza did come to the other side in the 1990s. Robbie Mustoe made a massive amount of appearances for the club in the 90s. Pallister did come back after promotion to the Premier League in the 90s as well. He kind of, I believe, took over from Nigel Pearson when he returned to the club. And Craig Hignett again, been nice of it put in there that he scored the first ever goal at the Riverside. But I would say that in terms of accuracy, it's massively ahead. In terms of style, it's probably better than Claude, apart from that first opening line. But the closer together, it's just accuracy that Claude missed out on. And let's take a look at Bard. So Juninho, I don't think anyone put him at number 10. He should be at number 1, really, right? He's probably the greatest player the club ever had. Ravanelli, Gascoigne. Now, this should be better. And Steve McLaren, he never played for Middlesbrough. He managed Middlesbrough in the 2000s. This is where I would say that Bard allegedly has access to the internet and is able to connect to the internet and see and fact check things, which should make it more accurate than either of the two. But Steve McLaren never played for the club. Brian Robson, I mean, he was a good manager. He never took the club to the UEFA Cup final, Brian Robson, and he did well in the 1994 season, but he wasn't a long-term player of the club. I think he played quite a lot in the first season in Division 1, and I think played one game during an injury crisis in either 1996 or 1997, I can't remember which, but he definitely wasn't someone who was here one of the best players. Chris Fairclough, not 100% sure. Macaroni didn't sign until after the 90s, so and it says that itself. Hasselbank never signed until the 2000s, and Alan Shearer never played for the club, so I don't really know. Bard, in terms of both style and in terms of accuracy, is by far the worst. Claude disappointed me in terms of accuracy. I thought it would have been more accurate. Because it's 1990s, it's in the past. The training data should include all this information, but AI hallucinates, and that is why it's important to be able to remember that when you're using AI at the moment, to still fact check everything. It still makes mistakes. It's a great tool as long as you're talking about stuff you either know about or can fact check yourself. You take a look here. Bard, which has got a connection to the internet, put Alan Shearer as the number one player to ever play for Middlesbrough, and he never played for Middlesbrough. Claude made up a player that I've never heard of before, and also put players in the side that just, Francesco Ravielli. I think that's probably meant to be Fabrizio Ravanelli, I think. But it put players in that side that never played for the club, and that was disappointing, but is just what happens with AI. GPT-4 definitely, in terms of things it knows about, is by far the most accurate of any AI systems out there, and that's not a surprise. So I want to know what you think. In the comments, drop a message on there if you've used Claude, Bard, and GPT-4. Tell me what your thoughts are of these, which one you think is the best, or if you have any questions for me, drop them down in the comments as well. I'll be happy to answer them. And as I said earlier on in the video, please, if you like AI and if you like GPT and you want to learn how to use it, please subscribe to the channel. It will definitely give you a lot of value. And if this video has helped you, again, drop a like and share it with people who you think would find it useful as well. Otherwise, that is it from me, and I look forward to seeing you again next weekend.